Okay, you know how you have an idea and then you ask everyone around you what they think of it, except for the people around you probably are not the most ideal people to ask, either because they have nothing to do with the idea and they really just want you to feel good about yourself, so they tell you, yeah, sure, that's cool. Or they genuinely just don't want what you want for your life, so they're very likely going to tell you it's a bad idea no matter how good it actually is. We need to be able to vet ideas so that we can take steps forward in our life that we've decided for ourselves, but are not dumb. Straight up, we need to make smart decisions, okay? I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I've had so many new ideas pop up in my own mind about my own life and my own career and my own passions and my own content strategy, just literally everything. I get new ideas all the time and I have to figure out a filtration system for them. So these are the 10 questions that I will put new ideas through to thoroughly vet them, whether or not they're good and something I should proceed with. Question number 1, did this idea come from a place of fear or inspiration? This is a very important one to ask. A lot of times we are coming up with new ideas because we see other people doing them and we think it's the safe option. If you are choosing something because it feels like the safe option, it is a very strong likelihood that you are coming to that conclusion from a place of fear. Fear that what you're otherwise doing will not be safe in the long run. Fear that you haven't chosen something correctly in your life and you need to fix it. And in doing so, choosing an option that isn't necessarily right for you, but satisfies the fear that you have in you, which is really a worry about something that's never going to happen. Listen, maybe it could happen, but the more we ruminate on it and the more we come up with ideas to try to solve for something that's not actually a problem in our life yet, that doesn't get us anywhere. Now, if you come up with an idea out of a place of inspiration, you'll know it because you probably start to push it down. You probably think, no, people like me can't have that. If you are feeling that moment, it's probably a place of inspiration. And that's something you need to pay attention to. Keeping that first idea in mind, no matter where it came from, whether it's fear or inspiration or anything else, someone else's idea. Let's just put it aside for a second and move on to question 2. Question 2 is inspired from a book that I read called The One Thing. The book is by Gary Keller, and I absolutely love that he poses this question in the book. What is the one thing you can do that by doing it makes everything else either easier or unnecessary? New ideas sometimes distract us from things that are working. And so we want to make sure that we address that right away. So whether you're doing it right now already, or it's something you haven't started yet, or you do it and it's a little inconsistent, is there one thing that you already know is kind of a working thing for you? And maybe you're not giving it the attention that it deserves. It's really, really important to look at that one thing, if you've come to that conclusion already, something that you know is a strength for you, and say, does this have anything in common with my idea? We need to look at both of them. If this idea is good, is it contributing to the one thing that if I got better at it, got faster at it, continued to be consistent with it, maybe even changed lives with it, does the idea contribute to that? Does it make me faster? Is it going to make things better? Is it going to make the results come? Is it going to build on those results? You're going to start to see a fuller picture here, because most of the time we come up with new ideas as distractions, a form of distraction, and we want to be super aware of that in this process. So we move on to question number 3. Does this new idea contribute to the cause of the one thing? Because if it does, and you can really start to see what it will actually look like, because you're already pretty versed in like what that big thing is for you right now, you can probably visualize this idea coming to life a lot easier, and you'll absolutely be able to execute it so much better if that's the case. But if you find that in number 3, they don't match up, we can move on and ask more questions about the idea, because maybe you need to move on from the one thing that is the case for you right now. But we need to discover why that is and make sure it's the right thing. The 4th question is inspired from a book I read by Brené Brown. The question that she posed, and she posed it in a few different ways, so I've kind of just reformulated it here for how we're structuring this ideation process. But the basic concept is this: what more do I need to understand about this idea? It might be, what more do I need to understand about the people involved in this idea? It might be, what more do I need to understand if I am going to be proceeding with this, and where I will be in the next 10 years and how my life will need to work? What more do I need to understand about this idea? And sometimes this is just using the best skill set in the whole wide world, which is resourcefulness, and building on your knowledge and expertise in an area. And you might just have to do some of that research to make that a part of your tool belt or your repertoire. To help you with this particular question, as you start to navigate what more you need to understand, I'm partnering with one of my favorite brands I've been working with for so many years, and the amazing resource that they have to offer, and that is our friends at Skillshare. Skillshare is sponsoring this episode of Amy TV because it is so important that you understand that the resources you need, the understanding you need to obtain, the knowledge that you need to grow is incredibly close to you, especially in this technology age. Simply by being a member of Skillshare, you can go through any education process tailored to exactly what you need to make this idea come to life. A lot of people don't know this about Skillshare because they think it's just the place to go to learn about how to get better at photography or film or video editing. You can absolutely do all of those things. But did you know that Skillshare has hundreds of career-focused classes as well? These days, a traditional career is not one size fits all, and it's very much what you make of it and all of the different skills that you bring to the table. While I love Skillshare for continuing to hone my videography skills and editing videos for you here, I also go to them for some really important things in my business, like leadership training or just lifestyle design. There's also marketing classes in there, different kinds of business development ideas that really help take my role seriously as an owner of my business. And a lot of you have discovered me for something that I am a huge fan of, which is continuing to be more productive. So one of my favorite classes on Skillshare that I pull up all the time to refer back to and just continue to hone my skills is one that helps me to better use the tool Notion. Ali Abdal, an amazing YouTuber on this platform, has a fantastic class on leveraging Notion in so many different ways to build out databases that make you more productive. Everything from building a life OS to going a lot deeper into something specific, maybe in your business. He's got a great resource here on Skillshare in this class that is hugely popular and widely reviewed that makes you an absolute expert at Notion. So think about what you need to better understand for your idea to continue to grow and potentially navigate it better. And look at Skillshare for all of the options they have available to you to help you get that education. You can actually use my link in the description down below so that you can try it for 1 month free. Do you know how many classes you can take in that month? It's amazing how much knowledge you'll be able to get in that period of time when you simply click the link down below, sign up with a new account, and get a 1 month free trial. I highly recommend it. I have been an avid user and friend of Skillshare for so long. I think it's one of the best education resources online. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this episode of Amy TV. And thank you everyone for going down to the description to click that link and try out Skillshare for yourself for 1 month for free. So we've started to figure out where the inspiration for this idea came from. We're starting to learn more about what we have to do to build on the idea. And we've thought about the one thing that is really critical in our life. So now the question is this idea really a project that allows you to procrastinate from what is already truly productive and effective in your life? We're just gonna lay the cards on the table. The answer to this might be yes, and it still may be a good idea that you need to consider, but you need to be honest with yourself. Is this idea, even if it's truly inspirational and not fear-based, actually just a form of procrastination so that you don't have to do the boring thing that absolutely works? Most of our life is spent doing something really well so many times that the work, the money, the effort, the grind compounds and builds something bigger and better for ourselves. So are we just getting bored with that thing that we really just need to put in our time and effort into? Are you just bored with your one thing right now? Because if that's the case, that's fine. But what are we going to see in the future for you? And would you be better served to just stay focused? Or are you trying to come up with something that's interesting right now that you think could throw a wrench in it all and be this new, amazing, passionate discovery? But is it? You have to be honest with yourself. Are you just building a form of procrastination? Just answer yourself honestly, yes or no. Question number 6 is one I have to ask myself all the time because my tendency is to come up with new ideas that are so big that they make sense to me because of how much time and space they're going to take up. Like, okay, I feel that if I export at a certain level that this must be a great idea. And that could be the case, but that's why we need question 6, because we have to make sure it's the right move. Is this idea more work? And if so, what is the direct return on investment for that additional work? So rather than just let me add all the bells and whistles and add more things to do and more money and more whatever the case may be and just make it bigger, if there is more effort involved, does that mean there's going to be a larger return on that? Now, this may not be a business thing for you at all, and if that's the case, that's fine. Your return on investment might be an immeasurable feeling, such as passion or excitement or something to look forward to. And if that's the case, cool. Write that down as your direct return on investment. But if that's not genuinely true, don't say it. If it is a form of business, if you're coming up with this big campaign idea or this big change of direction, if it's more work, is that just making you feel better about the fact that you gave yourself a bigger assignment so you can feel a little bit more connected to the process? If you're going to spend more time, more money, more hours on something, there's got to be a reason for it. And ideally, it would equate to something bigger coming your way. Because if you can do the one thing consistently and get the same amount of return back, we're going to want to go with that, okay? It may be the boring thing right now, but if you can't connect to an exact reason why this is going to produce more results for you, you're just giving yourself more work, more stress. This is what happens when we get to a place of burnout. We thought we did all the right things because we tried to do the bigger, the better, the more showy, the more busy thing. But being busier is not better, and being busier does not mean more results. Which is why we look at question 7 off the back of that one, which is, can you do something more effective for the exact same ROI? More effective, not more productive, more effective, meaning that you actually get out of something what you need for the minimal amount of effort it actually takes. Is there something more effective than this big thing, this big idea that you're coming up with that would get the same results? Now, if you're going to get more results from the big thing, then that's great. But if it's the same amount of output for a lot more input, this is a red flag, and we need to reassess. You have absolutely designed something to procrastinate with. Let's call it like it is, and let's probably move on from it. Question number 8 is one that was inspired by a conversation I heard with Oprah Winfrey. Somebody asked her, you get a lot of invitations to do things, you get a lot of opportunities brought your way, and you can be a lot more particular at this stage of your career. So how do you decide when you do something, or how do you decide something's a good idea, essentially? And she said, I know I want to do something after I've asked myself the question, how will I feel and what will my intention be? So I want you to look at your idea and I want you to ask yourself, if you proceed with this, how is it going to make you feel and what will your intention be? The intention part I think is really big, because if your intention is something that doesn't actually fill your cup, but you're hoping somehow your cup is going to be filled, then you can see where it's not going to match up. So for instance, I need to have more purpose in my work. I need to feel like it's mattering. And so I'm going to do this idea. But the actual intention behind the idea is that I'm going to make a lot more money. Well, you can see how those two things are not matching up. If you want to feel more fulfilled, but the intention is that you'll make more money, then you're probably not going to get what you need out of that. They don't match. So ask yourself about your idea. How is it going to make you feel when you're doing it, on your way to doing it, completing it? How will it make you feel? And what will your intention be going into it? Make sure that it is what you think it is. Because if we're being honest, a lot of times our ideas come from a different kind of intention. That intention, especially if you answered number 1 and it was fear, not inspiration, that brought this idea to light, then your intention for this idea is probably not going to be a good one. It's going to be coming from a place of fear. It's going to be something that could theoretically make you feel safe, but it's probably not this big idea that's going to fulfill you like you were hoping it would be. I like question number 10 because I think new ideas also tend to come from a place of winning. I think we like to feel like we've won in our lives in some way. And that level of achievement, and when you think about achievement, you probably think about winning. And what does winning look like? Well, this question is inspired by Dave Ramsey. I think I just heard him say this once on a podcast. I like to just write down good questions. And he said, what does a winner look like? What does a winner look like? If you were to proceed with this idea and it's coming from a place of inspiration and you're so excited about it, and it might be worth changing up your one thing, or it's going to elevate your one thing, and all green lights are go. What does a winner look like? Because you should be in this to get to that point. It doesn't necessarily mean you're the fastest one to cross the finish line. That might be one person's version of winning. Your version of winning could just be finishing, and that would be enough. But to you, what does a winner look like? Because you need that clarity. If we're going down this road and you might be rerouting from something else, or you just need to know that you are on the right track, you need to have clarity of where you're headed. Without that clarity, we're just wishy-washy. We're going to come up with another idea next week. We're going to change gears again. What does a winner look like? And when you know what that is for you, then you know where you're headed. And if that is enough for you to say, I have to try this, otherwise I'm going to say, what if? At least have this in mind. And because there's so many twists and turns that all of these questions have taken you on, there's an 11th question, and it's the final question. The 11th question is, after all of this discovery process you have just gone through, answering these questions and doing this education process and signing up for the classes and learning and understanding what this path looks like a little bit better and looking at what a winner looks like and saying, I think that I really want that to be me. Question 11 is, do you still feel called to follow through with this idea? This may be a moment where you say no. But I don't want to forget about it entirely. I just feel like it's not time yet. That's okay. The idea can sit in your back pocket, and you can refer back to these questions, and you can refer back to your thoughts on them and see how they change over time. Are you still thinking about this in a week, in a month, in a year? But if you don't still feel called right now to follow through, then you know it is not the time. It is not the season. It is not the moment. It may not be never, but it's not right now. And I really encourage you to refer back to number 2 and what your answer was. What is the one thing that makes everything else too much work, too much money, unnecessary, easier? What is the thing? The reason why I'm pointing this out is because we've gotten so confused about what we need in our lives, and it feels like it needs to be bigger and flashier and more interesting and diversified and crazy, and we don't. We got burnt out on that. We need to know the one thing in our life that makes sense of everything else, because the sense you need to make of everything else is just truly enjoying it. And we're allowed to just have that one thing be the one thing, and we master that one thing so that we can let everything else in life be so much more interesting and actually enjoy it and not be worried about filling up the space that should take up. With all of that being said, do you still feel called on this idea? Or are we going to put it in the notebook of great ideas that you have and refer back to it later? I hope this has been helpful. I imagine having an idea that you don't know who to ask, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know if you know enough, and you don't know what you don't know is frustrating. And so these questions have helped me in moments where I'm letting the ADD come in a little bit, and I want to think, oh, I like this idea a lot. I want to understand it better. I need to ask myself the tough questions first, because no one else is going to hold my hand in this process, and no one's going to hold yours either. People may cheer for you. People may boo. You're the only one in the shoes that's going to be doing it. So you have to ask yourself these questions and have total clarity on it. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. As always, remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and and go after the life you want. Cheers.